Ms. May-Ann Lim, Chairman, Engineering Good, Mr. Patrick He, CEO, Engineering Good, gentlemen and ladies, friends, boys and girls in the house, a very good afternoon, everyone. First of all, it gives me great pleasure to be back at the Tech for Good Festival this year. I'm personally very excited to see how this event has over the years evolved, and it continues to be an important platform for innovative ideas to be showcased. This year, 6 teams worked closely alongside Engineering Good and community partners over 3 months. Not an easy feat, nor is it an insubstantial amount of effort that's been put in. What were they trying to do? They were trying to develop innovative solutions to address the employment needs of persons with disabilities. Now, I've had a quick run-through of the different projects, and I must say, many of them are just simply works of genius, innovation, and a lot of hard work behind the scenes. Can I just call upon everyone to just lend me your hands, give them, all project groups, a big round of applause. Now, inclusive employment is a focal area in the Enabling Master Plan 2030, which we launched last year. We want to empower persons with disabilities who can work to also be recognized for their abilities and skills and knowledge, as well as to achieve gainful employment. EMP 2030 sets out our collective vision for Singapore as a more caring and eventually a more inclusive society. And we have an ambition, and that ambition is to up the employment levels of our persons with disabilities in our midst. As of last year, it stood at about 31%. And we want to drive this number up to 40% by the year 2030. At the same time, we want to ensure that persons with disabilities who can work are able to fulfill their dreams and to realize their fullest potential. But this can only be done through a collective effort where individuals, communities, businesses, corporates all work closely together to create and provide the opportunities. And mind you, it's not just about funding, it's not just about people coming together. It's about a change of hearts, a change of mindsets, a change of culture, becoming more inclusive. And I think that perhaps is the most difficult part of the few things we're trying to look at. Over the past few years, with the support of our social service partners, we have helped employers develop supportive hiring practices, create disability-friendly workspaces, and redesign job scopes that leverages the strengths of persons with disabilities. And there are many strengths that our PwD friends have. Take Ensign, for instance. Ensign is a cybersecurity firm. In 2021, they embarked on their inclusive employment journey, partnering SG Enable and the Autism Resource Center to develop a structured employment program which identifies and trains autistic individuals to take on cybersecurity roles, a very pertinent part of how we are all digitally and hyper-connected today. And in recognition of their commitment to inclusive hiring, Ensign was awarded the Enabling Mark Award this year, a national accreditation given to employers who have shown best practices, outcomes, and commitment to disability-inclusive employment. The government supports employers' inclusive employment efforts through a whole suite of employment support schemes, such as the Job Redesign Grant, which defrays up to 90% of the cost of workplace modifications and equipment. And this is but one example of the fact that we are here to walk this journey with caregivers, with persons with disabilities, and with the community at large. Now, we recognize that each person with disability is unique, and their individual needs will be different. So as we seek to create a more inclusive environment for persons with disabilities, the expertise and passion of innovators, like many of you in the house today, is invaluable. So in that vein, the Tech for Good Festival embodies this spirit by encouraging participatory design and open source solutions that directly address the diverse needs of individuals with disabilities. Now, I want to share one more story, and allow me to share the story of Ren Chuan, a volunteer innovator at Tech for Good this year. I'm not sure if he's around. Is he around, Ren Chuan? Maybe lunch break? He is? Why don't you just give a wave? Where are you? Hi, Ren Chuan. Well, all of us just stand behind and make him feel a little bit awkward. Like, you can say hi to everyone. Now, Ren Chuan's father suffered a stroke that left him half paralyzed. Through Tech for Good, Ren Chuan and his team were able to help build a bowling mechanism for persons with physical disabilities. Their goal was simple. Their goal was to help Ren Chuan's father experience bowling once again. And through their dedication and innovation, they are closer to achieving that goal. And I would really want to encourage all of us in the house, all innovators in the house today, to really try to continue to support and encourage young innovators like Ren Chuan, many of yourselves, to try to come up with solutions that improve the lives of persons with disabilities. And many a times, it starts with simple ideas. Many a times, it starts with rapid prototyping. Many a times, it begins with just taking a plunge. Instead of just thinking through what you want to do and leaving it in your brains, bring it to life. Bring these ideas to life. Tap on the powers of the technology, different technologies that we have in 3D printing, in AI. Many of you in the house are much better and more adept at these things than I am. So I call upon you to really leverage your expertise in doing this great work that we are doing. Now, to conclude, I just want to say this, that we can all do our individual part to make Singapore a more caring and inclusive society. Now, this year, MSF has also designated 2023 as the year of celebrating social service partners. So on that note, I want to commend all of you who are present here in this event this afternoon for all your contributions. Now, the innovative solutions that we are showcasing this afternoon and today is powerful testimony that sometimes all it takes is a spark of creativity to make our society more inclusive. So once again, to all innovators present this afternoon, I encourage all of you to continue to think creatively and to contribute your skills and expertise for good. On that note, thank you very much for your attention. I wish everyone a fruitful and inspiring Tech for Good Festival 2023. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eric Chua. We're really honoured today to have you as our guest of honour. It's exciting to hear about the direction that our government and our corporate support is taking to support our PwD community. And we're very excited to see where that takes us. If I could get you to take your seat here in the middle, please, and I'll introduce our other two panellists. So, Alister Ong is recognised regionally in diversity and inclusion, speaking in Australia, Indonesia, Myanmar, Philippines, Vietnam, and Singapore. Merging valuable experience with a strong background in Bachelors of Economics, Alister has been speaking in multiple global organisations with the objective of making a positive growth by providing a robust diversity and inclusion strategy through thought leadership and change management. He is also the recipient of the Go Chok Tong Enable Award, the NCSS 40 Under 40 Award, Vice Chairperson of the Purple Parade, and he's on the REACH Advisory Panel. Thank you, Alister, for being here today. Finally, let me introduce you to our Fireside Chat moderator, May-Ann. May-Ann is the chair of the Board for Engineering Good, and you would have all heard from her earlier today. And that is amongst the other hats that she wears. I don't know how she does it, seriously. Professionally, she's a director of the FairTech Institute at Access Partnership, a technology research consulting firm. And not so professionally, she's also a scuba diving instructor and passionate about the blue economy and sustaining our oceans. May-Ann, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, John, for this. And a very warm welcome to Eric as well as Alister once again, to all of you. All right. The time now is 1:15. I've been under very strict instructions, Eric, to let you go at 1:30. So I will. Well, I know we can push that a little bit, but today we're going to be speaking a little bit to everybody around the topic of inclusive employment.
Right.
And I love the fact that Alister is here and you're here because
Exactly.
I think
Yes,
that with the meeting of minds, we're going to come up with a solution. So I only have one question
Right.
for both of you, and I'm going to get Eric, you speak first, and then Alister to give your opinion. What's
Sure.
that one thing that we as Singapore, what is that one thing that we as Singapore need to do to improve the employment opportunities for people with disabilities?
Wow, that's a big question. but-
It's more of a
Yes.
kopi rather than a fireside chat.
But it's an important question, May-Ann. I think if you ask me, there are so many things that we're doing today to try to improve employment prospects for persons with disability. Amongst all this many, so there are things like wage offsets, enabling employment credits, job support and job placement services that some of our agencies like SG Enable provides. But if there's one thing that I think we need to do better as a society, I think that has got to do with how we interact as a society with persons with disabilities. Now, I need to qualify what I say. Because I'm not about to say that Singaporeans are, bad folks or bad individuals who doesn't really care about persons with disabilities. Quite the reverse. I think a lot of us, we have a big heart. And that big heart really shows when a crisis comes upon us. So for instance, in the past 3 years, we have seen so many good deeds that has come out of COVID. And we were going through the different lockdown phases of our response to the COVID virus. I think all of us, in fact, most of us can agree that by and large, Singapore society has a lot of goodness and a lot of red-blooded, big-hearted people. But I feel that much as we are driven by our good hearts, a lot of times we find that there's a bit of awkwardness. So supposing if I meet Alister for the first time, I don't know you. So how do I start talking to you?
Correct.
How do I start interacting with you? And that's just on a very social level, a one-on-one kind of interaction. And at the workplace, you are talking about relationships, because it's not just about a chance acquaintance. So building that relationship, I think, is something that perhaps a substantial number of us in Singapore society is not quite, if I may use the word, comfortable with yet. So it's not a bad thing. Many of us carry big hearts with us, but I think to break that awkwardness, I think that's the first step that we all need to experience, and we all need to perhaps have a little bit of a personal epiphany and a breakthrough.
Well, that's a really, really good point, because I do admit, I think that for us, a lot of the first time that we meet somebody, for example, in a wheelchair, maybe Alister, you can tell me, should we bend down? Should I squat down? What's the right way to interact? But Eric, that's not something which could be, made into government policy.
No.
So
Yeah.
I do agree. It's a first step for that, and I think that that's a really good perspective that we take, because indeed that first step begins with yourself. It takes a lot for you to actually decide to be comfortable. So thank you for that perspective. I'm going to turn to Alister right now. What's that one thing that you wish that we would be able to do in Singapore?
Thank you very much. And I think I would like to build up the point that you said as well. When you interact with someone in a wheelchair, should you just remain standing? Should you bend down? And there are these minor things that we can't make everything into policy as well, because are we going to fine someone if they suddenly kneel down in front of you? Or are we going to impose a fine or a penalty if someone does not kneel down when you are talking to a person in a wheelchair? We can't legislate all these things and put into policy. But what we can do, I think, for all of us, and one thing that we can do to have inclusive hiring and building an inclusive society is continuously bring the awareness around. And not just awareness, but the boldness and the courage to have authentic and real conversations. And I must say that we are already doing that very well. We have inherited a very diverse culture, diverse multiracial society, multi-religious society. We have been doing that well already in terms of learning how to interact with one another. And I think the next step that we can go, it's not that people don't want to empathize. It's not that people don't want to know, but people might not know how to know. And I think then that is crucial for all of us to take the step, to take the leap forward, to be bold, to courageous and say, hey, I'm gonna try. It's gonna be a little bit awkward at first, but if we don't start that conversation, it'll be awkward all the way. So why not be courageous to take the first step and have the authentic conversation?
Thanks, Alister. In terms of that first step, I'm going to ask yourself and then Eric. Now, what is that first step that we could take? What are the platforms that you have seen which have been, I think, useful or more useful in your experience? And I'd be also very happy to hear if the audience has any questions or suggestions. Also, just raise your hand and let us know as well. Now, where are the platforms that have been useful to open up that first step?
I think there are many platforms available to have that first step. For example, one of the events is like today, all of you coming here, taking that first step to interact with one another, to interact with persons with disabilities. There are many initiatives all around as well. For example, SG Enable, Purple Parade, so on and so forth. There has been many initiatives, whether is it through community groups or even grown-up initiatives. And the question is actually, who is our neighbor? Who is the one that is beside us? And it might not be going far away to those places, but sometimes it's to have that conversation with just our neighbor, within our family, within our blocks, within our floor, our residential areas. And it can start from there. And I think this is broader as well, if I may, not just limited to interacting with persons with disabilities, but interacting with everyone, because all of us are unique, are special in our own very ways as well. And through that practice, we are able then to continue to develop even more.
Thanks, Alister. Eric?
Can I just make two quick points? Quite a number of things just came into my mind as we are talking, and I really just want to thank both the moderator as well as Alister for this conversation that we're having. Some of you might remember Chen Weilian, Kelvin Tan. Chen Weilian was a singer years ago in the Mandopop realm, and he said he related this example some years ago when I was on a program with him. He said that there are several times when he was at the curbside, he was carrying a bag, and he would somehow willy-nilly just get dragged across the road by his bag because he was carrying a white cane and wearing his sunglasses. So he was very baffled because he would then, after crossing the road, tell the person, excuse me, why do you drag me across the road? Because I'm just waiting for my Grab to come. And I think that shows, a few things. First, I think the individual who dragged him across the road wants to help, right? But he didn't quite remember to check in. So, hi, do you need help? Can I help you? What is it that you want to do? And if William were to say, yes, I want to cross the road, then what you need to do is just to simply, I'm raising my hand, you can hold on to my hand and I can help you navigate across. And you describe to him what are some of the hurdles, the central divider and whatnot along the way. I think that's one point that I want to just share with everyone. Another point came from, because in my role in MCCY, I get to interact with many of our national athletes. So I get to meet Pin Siu, whom we all call PX quite affectionately. So I meet PX quite often. And PX shared this with me, I can't remember when, probably after the Paralympics in 2021. Then she won 2 gold medals. And we were somehow talking about her achievements. And then she told me that actually you don't need to overcompensate. So she comes home from Tokyo with 2 gold medals. You don't need to say, wow, PX overcame so mountains of challenges, cross over hurdles, train very hard, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm trying to say. And achieved 2 gold medals for Singapore. Actually, what I think persons with disabilities want is to be able to talk eye to eye level. Just congratulate Pin Siu. congratulations. I'm sure you have worked hard to achieve what you have achieved, and you are the pride of our nation. I think that will do. And that's what she told me. These are examples that forever stays in my heart, because I think these are, first of all, coming from persons with disabilities themselves. And I think these are very good advice and very wise, good wisdom to pass on to everyone, the rest of us.
Thank you for those anecdotes. I think that that's definitely something which we all want to strive towards, to give people dignity and simply respect for being part of the human race, I suppose. It's not something that is supposed to be, I like the idea of we don't need to overcompensate, and I see Alister nodding as well, which is good validation for me as well, in case I'm concluding out of thin air. But thank you very much for having this discussion. We are really focusing on inclusive employment, but it is one of the aspects of life in general. So thank you very much for your opinions and perspectives. I like the idea that we should be interacting a lot more. I love the fact that we indeed do have a lot of discussions. I like the fact that as Singapore, as a Singaporean, we are actually engaging in existing national dialogues, and will continue to discuss this in our national dialogue as we move on. Of course.
If I may just add, this I must also sell a bit of government goyo, right? And I think by way of inclusive employment, we're trying to do a lot more. So we are going to launch the first Enabling Business Hub by the end of this year. And that really focuses on how we can get more employers to be open-minded to disability-inclusive employment. And in terms of interaction, we spoke about the awkwardness earlier. We spoke about the need for all of us, especially able-bodied ones in the community, to step forward, to really take that first step. And I think just last month, we have started on our journey in bringing Enabling Services Hub to the heartlands. The first one was in Tampines. There will be more in the coming years across Singapore, so that we can create those inclusive social opportunities in sport, in recreational activities, in all sorts of spaces, as well as activities that we want to, genres of activities that we want to bring to the public at large. And our end goal is really to see inclusiveness worked into obsolescence. Meaning to say, it'll be one day obsolete to just even talk about inclusivity. That's aspirational, that is not easy, but that is something that shouldn't stop us from striving.
Thanks, Eric. Definitely, as people working in the social sector, we always want to work ourselves out of a job, because we don't actually want the problems that we are trying to resolve to actually exist anymore. So it's a really ironic situation where actually if you don't have a job, it's actually a good thing. I like the idea that we are going to have that inclusive hub, business hub that's going to be starting already. One of the biggest takeaways that I have from this year's Tech for Good is I'm quite proud of the fact that we don't produce a huge corpus of information. One of the biggest takeaways that I had from our discussions this year was that in the CBD, it's actually extremely difficult for people with disabilities to get around. And as somebody who works in the CBD, I was actually very shocked. I was like, okay, if there is one thing that I would want to give back to the government is to say, hey, we actually have a challenge here, because if we want more people to work in, for example, the CBDs, even though I know a lot of people are working from home right now, I think that that's something that we should resolve. And then this is the added idea of having collaborative discussions. I chatted with Alister. Alister then pointed out to me, actually, there's a government issue here, because it may not be government land. It may actually, or it may be different departments. It may be SLA, it may be national parks, etc. So there's a bit of coordination that needs to be going along here. So we're really proud to be enabling one of the platforms by which, I won't say public-private partnerships, but it's a private discussions and organizations like us can feedback to the government to give information like that. People organize. Thank you. It's another P, right? People, public partnerships to give back that information back to the government so that better policy can be written. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate
Thank you.
Please
It's
give
way
him a round
too
of applause.
short, yeah, but
it is really
thank you
too
very
short.
much for the short but good conversation.
Thank you very much. I'm going to get the photographers to see if we've enough pictures ready. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to turn the time back to John.